Welcome to our channel, Beast Whisperer. In the heart of Tanzania's vast Serengeti savanna, where the golden grasses stretch endlessly, the harsh dry season had taken its toll. Animals moved with desperation, thirst and hunger shadowing their every step. Among them was a young lion, barely clinging to life. David, a seasoned wildlife ranger, had spent years patrolling this unforgiving land, ensuring that its majestic creatures remained safe. One morning, while making his routine rounds, he noticed unfamiliar tracks near a lone acacia tree. Approaching quietly, his eyes caught the heartbreaking sight. A lion cub, frail and motionless, lay under the shade. But what stopped David in his tracks was the grotesque mass covering half of its face, a massive tumor that nearly blinded its right eye. The cub was weak, unable to fend for itself, and the scorching heat of the Serengeti only worsened its condition. It let out a feeble roar, so soft it felt more like a whisper. David's heart broke. He knew time was running out. Wasting no time, he called for backup from the nearest ranger station and requested emergency medical assistance. Together with two fellow rangers, he returned with an anesthetic kit and a special transport cage. They approached slowly, mindful not to startle the injured animal. David sat at a distance and extended his hand gently, speaking softly while tossing small pieces of fresh meat toward the cub. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the cub began to lick the meat cautiously, its lone eye reflecting both fear and flickers of trust. When the moment was right, one of the rangers delivered a tranquilizer shot. The lion gradually drifted into unconsciousness without resistance. David exhaled in relief, whispering gently as he stroked its golden fur. The team moved quickly, placing the lion onto a stretcher and into the vehicle that would take it to the rescue center. Inside the rumbling vehicle, David remained by its side, monitoring its breathing and pulse. The tumor had grossly deformed the cub's face, but its ears twitched faintly. It was still fighting. After nearly an hour, they arrived at the rescue center. Veterinarians were already prepared. The lion was thin, gaunt, and clearly hadn't eaten in days. Emergency fluids were administered immediately to stabilize it. David never took his eyes off the young lion. This wasn't just a job anymore. It was a mission of compassion. Once the lion was stable, the veterinary team conducted X-rays and blood tests. The results were grim. The tumor posed a significant risk of infection. There was no time to lose. The decision was made to operate that very night. David stood outside the operating room for hours, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the door. Tension gripped the entire center. Finally, the lead veterinarian emerged with news. They had successfully removed most of the tumor without jeopardizing the lion's life. Tears welled up in David's eyes. The lion was moved to a recovery room, its face gently cleaned and its body wrapped in fresh bandages. For the first time in many days, it slept peacefully. The days that followed were difficult. The lion showed little interest in food, barely responding. But David stayed with it constantly, speaking, comforting, and offering small pieces of meat. Slowly, signs of life returned. The lion began to eat. Its eyes, once dull, began to glimmer with hope. The team named it Tamani, meaning hope in Swahili, a name that captured its journey. 2 weeks later, Tamani took its first shaky steps in the recovery pen. Rangers prepared a shaded area with soft grass where it could regain strength. Day by day, Tamani's spirit grew stronger. Then one morning, it let out a soft roar, the first since its rescue. Everyone at the center paused, then cheered. It was a tiny sound, but a massive milestone. As Tamani regained strength, he was transferred to a semi-wild enclosure within the Serengeti. Here, he would learn to hunt again. David monitored him closely, watching his every move. At first, Tamani struggled, but instincts slowly returned. He learned to stalk, to pounce. Weeks passed, and eventually, Tamani brought down his first antelope on his own. The victory left David speechless. Tamani was ready. Each evening, Tamani would sit gazing into the endless plains, yearning, perhaps, for his true place in the wild. David knew the time had come. The Rangers began preparations for his final release. On that day, beneath the warm morning sun, the entire team gathered. David opened the cage door and softly called his name one last time. Tamani stepped out, pausing. He turned and locked eyes with David, a silent moment of recognition, of thanks. Then, without hesitation, Tamani ran, his strong frame disappearing into the wild grasses, into the freedom he was born for. David stood still, heart full of pride. Tamani's story was not just about survival. It was about resilience, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between man and beast. He had not just saved a lion. He had restored a warrior to the Serengeti,